Hello and welcome back to another video for Final Fantasy XIV. Specifically, this is my summary of Live Letter Part 71, which is a two-parter. This is the first live letter of a two-part series looking into the upcoming patch 6.2 content. In this content, we have today discussions about Island Sanctuary, MSQ details, you name it. So let's hop straight into all of this information. 6.18 then is the first thing we want to know about. That obviously has a date release of the 5th of July, which is obviously 4 days from now. If you didn't already know that, that's the date. With this comes data center travel, the addition of new data centers, and world distribution for Japan. Europe also gets a set of replacement server equipment, as well as the new European data center. Season 2 of Crystalline Conflict will also start after the maintenance on the 5th of July. So let's move on to 6.2 information. First of all, it has the title of Buried Memory. Lots of things can be drawn from this in speculation, and they encourage all the speculation. So is it something actually buried, or is it actually a literal meaning? We'll find out as the patch releases in late August 2022. So we have a little over 2 months to go. 6.2's details then. So let's go down the line of just mentions of what's in the patch. Obviously new main storyline quests with some actual pictures shown here. Sid seems to be making a return to the storyline, along with this shady fellow that I think I've seen before in a storyline, but I can't remember where. Maybe you can comment below and let me know. Along with this, side quests continue with Tataru's Grand Endeavor, the first part of which was in the previous patch. In 6.2 we get more of the same, so who knows where this is going to go, although we do have a screenshot with a sky pirate here, along with this fellow. They do mention here that players will have to have completed the Shadow of Mark quests to actually do this part of Tataru's endeavors, presumably because this does involve the Sky Pirates that are introduced into the Marquee storyline. So bear in mind you might want to do the Marquee Alliance Raid stuff to actually bring that up if you want to do more Tataru's Grand Endeavors. More Hildebrand will be coming in 6.25 with the continuation that I won't spoil for you here, but as you can clearly see, that's Nashu Makaraka on the moon there, so hilarity continues. Additionally, on top of that, we have in 6.25, along with Hildebrand, new weapon enhancement quests. So these are actually relic quests. The next relic quest in the game, relic weapons, will be unlocked in the somehow further Hildebrand adventures. This will require previous continuation up until the recent patch of Hildebrand. A lot of people have knee-jerk reacted on social media against this. I personally think this is quite fun, and it does allow for quite a large amount of hilarity, since apparently they are the legendary Mandeville weapons. They are quest-centric progressions and will be updated throughout the entirety of the 6.x series, all the way up until the end of the expansion. So if you're wondering where the relic weapons came from, you better go and do some Hildebrand side quests. Why not? They're enjoyable. And even if you don't like them, we'll skip the cutscenes, I guess. There's minions, mounts, titles, all sorts of things from them. Just go do them. It's worthwhile. Trust me. The new Beast Tribe quests, or tribal quests as I should call them, are also coming in 6.25. It's not actually the Leporites, surprisingly. They've gone with the Omicrons. This will be set in Ultima Thule and is specifically for Disciple of the Land, so gathering only. This is quite a turn. They did say that people were expecting the Leporites, and apparently as a result of tweeting way on Twitter the other day, they've decided to go with Omicrons. This is a bit of a joke, but it's interesting to see where this will be. The screenshot shows very clearly that sort of like cafe area that was sort of desolate just before the Meteon encounters at the end of Ultima Thule, so very interesting to speculate on what that might be. Obviously, with 6.2, we're getting a new dungeon for the MSQ. This dungeon is going to be called the Fell Court of Troya. There's a screenshot of the dungeon. First is this picture of a cell or something. Looks fairly unassuming. But then they show this second picture, which is, holy moly, that looks like it's actually set in the void, so speculation as to where the storyline goes from where we left off. New trials will be in 6.2 series. They're not naming it at the minute. They are obviously question mark and question mark extreme, so there will be an extreme version as well as a normal. They will not reveal this at this time. It'll probably be on a special site in the future or another announcement. Who knows? Pandemonium, the next raid series in 6.2 with Abyssos. This is the new tier of raiding, is coming in 6.2. The Savage of which will actually be delayed this time 1 week after the normal mode's release. Usually this happens at the start of an expansion with one tier, and then the next tiers are actually released at the same time as normal. This time around, they're going to try and push this back 1 week after the normal mode's release in 6.2 because there are both requests asking for this and against it. So they're actually going to trial it out and see what sort of feedback they get. If people don't like having to do Savage a week after normal, then they'll revert it in the future and so on. And if they like it, that's the way they want to go based on that feedback. They also show one sneaky screenshot of somewhere in that Savage of a room with green inside of it. Or, sorry, I should say Savage and normal. This is part of Abyssos. It looks kind of like spider webs or something. My friend commented it looked like snot, which is disgusting. Who knows? Maybe it's a spider boss. That's one of the speculations for one of the bosses, at least, of the 4 that we'll get in 6.2. There's a new Unreal trial being added to the game, which is Unreal Sephiroth. Yoshi P said that this was very difficult in testing, so they've actually removed the Earthshaker's proximity damage, if you remember Earthshakers from the original Sephiroth encounter, and they're also toning down the tank damage because it was melting them, and there's lots of other adjustments. It should be an enjoyable fight regardless, but they had to make some adjustments because of level 90 scaling and stuff like that. Job adjustments are obviously on the horizon for PvE and PvP. Yoshi P comments, in PvP we're trying to adjust the matching for Crystalline Conflict as well, so that pre-discussing queuing at the same time won't work that easily anymore. This is to prevent people from queuing, going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and press Q at the same time, to prevent that sort of stuff. So they're going to try and prevent people from sort of forcing pre-mades into public matches, which apparently is something people try to do. It happens. It's to be expected, but they're trying to look around ways to prevent that. Regarding Dragoon and Astrologian, originally they had plans to rework those. Those have currently been postponed for the time being. The reason they give is because it was too much that will be needed. Intentions behind each job adjustment will be explained at a later date. So, yeah, if you're an Astrologian or a Dragoon and you're expecting big changes, that's not going to happen in 6.2. Yoshi P says, aside from the patch notes, we'll also go into further detail on why and how we decided on future job adjustments. This will be in written form, presumably on a website, like a forum post or something, so I will not be forgetting things to mention, and that's all they talk about in regards to job changes. In terms of battle changes, though, critical and direct hit adjustments are coming to the game. They plan to adjust them for instances in which buffs, debuffs, and attributes related to critical and direct hits do not result in expected benefits. They want to talk more on it in part 2 of the live letter, so in the next live letter after this one, probably, number 72 live letter. PvP updates then, just short and brief. Season 2 will begin, and Season 3 of Crystalline Conflict, obviously, with new rewards. And they're making an announcement that Rival Wings is returning. So if you didn't know, Rival Wings was a little bit sort of buggy. They weren't happy with it. They took it away from us to rework it, and it's coming back in its reworked form. More details in the future, probably. They say there's continued improvements to the main storyline coming in 6.2, along with duty support, which is with those AI NPCs, will now be added for the dungeons Snowcloak, Keeper of the Lake, Somal, the Eyrie, and the Vault. So they're continuing to make the new player experience and the return player experience much more enjoyable and accessible if you can't get into a queue with something. Especially here as well, in Heavensward content, they say the screenshot showing Ysael and Estinian in a party with you, which looks great. I can't wait to see how that plays out. I do like duty support. I'm a massive fan of the AI, personally. Other changes include the Steps of Faith will apparently be a solo quest battle, so you won't have to deal with having to queue in for that, and you'll be with NPCs, so that's interesting. They are also revamping the Duty Thorn March, the trial with Good King Moogle Mog, Yoshi B says, for being the first 8-man trial in the story, Thorn March is very difficult. We completely revamped it, end quote. So presumably they've made that a lot easier for new players. New battle content vent in 6.25, so a few weeks or maybe a month after 6.2's release, is variant dungeons. These are brand new. These are variable difficulty dungeons. Previously, these were first introduced as just Criterion dungeons, which are in here as well, but they're sort of the same thing. There's difficulty levels, basically. So alongside the new content in the game, these variant dungeons are level 90 casual play for 1 to 4 players. It's 40-player parties when you're matched, with no role restrictions, and you can change your job within the duty. The route of progression is actually branched based on player action, so decisions you make and ways you go out of multiple paths will result in different storyline conclusions. Apparently, enemy strength is determined by your party size as well, so it scales. And Yoshi P says, and I quote, depending on your decisions and movements inside the dungeon, there are going to be different routes of progression, end quote. So lots of stuff to see. The first variant dungeon will be called the Sildine Subterrane, which is exploring the depths alongside a certain someone. Speculation is that that's either Raban. I'm guessing Nanamo. Let's go for that guess. This apparently is the system of tunnels that were under Uldar that we escaped during a certain patch, if you remember, that involved wine spilling, if I was to mention that without spoiling anything. But yes, so the tunnels under Uldar, very exciting stuff. They say your story will change depending on your chosen path. All of the stories may be enjoyed on multiple playthroughs, so there's return content there. Yoshi P says, and I quote, there will be an NPC that will walk with you, and ... they do talk quite a bit. Depending on the route progression, the story will be different. If you want to enjoy the whole story, you will have to rerun the dungeon a couple of times. Since there are a few routes, there are actually a lot of places inside this dungeon that are suited for screenshots. Yoshi P also says here, we will add further variant dungeons later, not in every patch, but we have planned another 2 for 6.x series. End quote. So there's going to be at least another 2 of these, so 3 in total so far in production for this expansion. Very exciting stuff. Then there are another path Criterion dungeons. So this is like the harder mode version of that. So you've got your story mode stuff, and then you've got Criterion dungeons. So this is level 90 high difficulty challenges for 4-player parties. This is like the other mode, but Criterion is focused towards, much more progressed people, almost savage content. This will offer a new experience at a higher difficulty level with 4 players. So this is much like you can think of Rathalos Extreme, for example, that 4-player sort of content. Parties with fewer than 4 players supplemented via matching, so they'll get more people, and normal methods of resurrection will be prohibited, but every player is granted a limited number of revival actions, again, much like Rathalos Extreme, where you have limited deaths. Defeated enemies do not recover after a KO. However, there is also a Savage version of this. In Savage, every method of resurrection is prohibited. These are preformed parties of 4 players, so you can only go in as you're preformed, and all defeated enemies revive after your party is KO'd, so you'll have to start straight again if your party fails. Enemies will actually become stronger if not defeated in a certain time limit, so there's a time aspect to Savage. And this content is, really, focused towards that Savage endgame group that, can't find 4 other players for that kind of raid content. It's supposed to be quite difficult. You've got that planning, that difficulty, the time element. I'm personally very excited for this. So just to recap, we have a story mode kind of like walkthrough of these new dungeons, the harder mode stuff for a bit of a challenge, and then we've got 4-player Savage pre-made stuff, which is like you have to start again and you don't have any resurrection capabilities, so you've got to be pretty good at what you do. Very exciting stuff. I'm sure they'll talk more about that in the future live letters, but from what they've said so far, very cool stuff. Now we're on to the second part of the live letter, all about, for the first bit at least, talking initially about Island Sanctuary. This is the bit we've most been interested in. So they describe this as build your own personal island sanctuary. Yoshi P mentions throughout this that basically you're given an island and it starts with nothing and you have to build from that. You build upon that and you scavenge things and you build things. It says, enjoy new casual solo gameplay. You gather materials, you care for creatures, you build facilities, you craft items, and more. You will not get experience, they say, for crafting and gathering jobs, or classes, sorry. It's just purely its own separate thing. So they show off the actual island, by the way. They blur out most of it because they don't want to spoil it. They'll reveal more in the future. But they put a Rogadin on the island, on the beach, to give you a full scale of the size of it. So hopefully people will gauge a good scale of what the island actually looks like, which is pretty awesome, I think you'll agree. So Island Sanctuary activities, what exactly can you do here? They're pretty vague, but we can dig into it. So you gather materials from nature, so presumably chopping down trees and things like that, and foraging and mining probably. Those materials take up separate inventory space, so they've made a new inventory just for the island, which is awesome, by the way, and all of those items are island specific. You can craft tools from those same gathered materials, and then these tools will help you harvest new resources more effectively on your island. So again, think of Animal Crossing and upgrading, or Stardew Valley, you're upgrading a wooden shovel to an iron shovel, and etc., stuff like that. More activities then include growing crops, that's confirmed. You can plant and cultivate seeds that you find on your island, presumably through those foraging and mining and all that stuff. Different from estate crops, they mentioned. They don't want to confuse you there. This is its own content on the island only. You collect and care for various creatures, they say, and you have to keep an eye out for rare colouring and indeed rare critters that might be on the island. They can be basically captured, and you can even name the animals as well once you have them. So there's kind of like that Pokemon aspect of it. Very cool stuff. So the main features: build a base of operations on your island and customize its appearance and unlock further tools for development of both the island and the settlement. You have a section where it says release your minions. Apparently your favorite minions may wander freely within your base. Very interesting. They say create handicrafts. So this bit, it says assemble collected materials into handicrafts and export them. You try to align exports with market demand for the best possible result. This currency is not gil and is not affected by other players, and it is island currency. It is separate. Again, they stress this is purely solo content and cannot be manipulated by other player actions. So this island currency, you're earning rewards by doing this stuff. You can exchange the accumulated island currency for special items. They don't say what those are, but we can speculate: mounts, minions, that sort of stuff, titles, achievements. They say socialize with friends. You're able to invite them to travel to your island, or you can visit other players' islands on your friend list or your free company members. They also say here in the notes, translation notes, Yoshi P's quoted as saying, flying will unlock at some point on the island and mount speeds are rather high, I think, end quote. So we'll be able to fly on the island eventually, so that gives you an idea of its scale. Yoshi P is quoted here saying, during the initial process, you'll develop the bare minimum on the island, but everything after that is completely up to you, end quote. And that's all they show. That's all the information we get for Island Sanctuary. So, exciting stuff. But apparently they're showing us more information in the next live letter, including pictures and some videos. So such a tease, very exciting. Yoshi B says we're still testing this part, but you can place an orchestrion in the base as well. But the further you get away from the orchestrion, the further the music will sound. More details and in-game footage during the next PLL, end quote. So confirmation there. The next live letter, we're getting footage of it. Exciting. So let's move on from Island Sanctuary, sadly, and talk about other 6.2 information. They say 6.2 also has Adventurer Plate release from beta. It's actually being released. Currently, its current form in the game, Adventurer Plates are in a beta form, a testing period. It's getting released, and they're actually changing how it works, the linking to portraits. A number of portraits could previously be created and then used for any purpose. When reviewing or editing them, the gear was reflected. They say this was far too confusing and they wanted to rebuild it. So in 6.2, it's going to look like this. Now they link directly, so it's easier to see what each set will do. A different portrait is created for each avenue of use. When previewing or editing, gear used during the portrait creation is now reflected instead of the current gear. This will prevent you from queuing into PvP, for example, and it defaulting to an expressionless grey box. Instead, it will actually show you the PvP, thing that you've set up for that. Unfortunately, they say you will have to remake all of your portraits, as they will be lost with this change and the 6.2 release of this feature. Adventurer Plate portraits and search comments may be edited from the Adventurer Plate's interface, and portraits may be updated to reflect current equipment, but players may also choose to edit only the camera settings and motions, etc. Additionally, gear set lists will be displayed in the portrait interface. This will allow for players to create a corresponding portrait for each set. Again, further, better, communication with the in-game stuff of how things link together. Much better. Instant portraits will be added and used during the Domain Mahjong system in 6.2, so they've wanted to add this to other features. Domain Mahjong is the first of which that gets added to this along with PvP, with new poses, new decorative features, and more added as well. Yoshi P says, and I quote, "We're working on portraits showing in dungeons as well, but we haven't finished that feature yet, so that will be a bit further in the future," end quote. So lots of plans for Adventurer Plates. Feature for copying poses and camera settings for portraits will also be added apparently as well. So that's cool. So now we're on to the miscellaneous updates. With 6.2, there will be a new elegant tombstone. This will be called Causality. That's the new tome's name, Tombstone of Causality. Yoshi P comments here jokingly that they're running out of names, I can imagine. With this patch comes new crafted gear. So if you want a leg up in terms of eye level, there's your option. And there will be the ability to request repairs from other players, both inside and outside of duties. So no longer do you queue into your ultimate or whatever and forget to repair and have to re-queue. Now you can actually repair inside the content. That means less downtime and more uptime in content. Very cool stuff. I like that a lot. That is one of the highest requested features, they say. I'm not surprised, so they added it. Also, combo actions will also be shown on the actions list now. They show a screenshot of this in example. This allows for people to gauge a better understanding of the job they're playing and how the combos play out. Again, this isn't showing you a full rotation of your job, but it goes a long way to tell you how these abilities connect. So you can put them on the bar respectively in better places. For example, if I wanted to try out Monk again for the first time in years, this would help me do that. Very cool stuff, instead of having to go to a website and stuff. So other miscellaneous stuff, they say new rare materials are added to etherical reductions performed by miners, botanists, and fishers. That comes with a new content. The glamour dresser capacity has been doubled from 400 to 800 slots. Hallelujah. I think I speak for everyone when I cheer from the heavens for that. Is it going to be enough? Probably not. We're very greedy as fashionistas, so it's very likely this will not be enough. My retainers are already crying with the fact that this isn't in the thousands already, but 800, much better than 400. Good job. I can't wait for that. That's 6.2. Hype. Further adjustments will be made to the order of certain Return to Ivalice quests, apparently. This is more misc information. In accordance with these quests, making bacon bread and walk on by will become unavailable, sorry. So they're removing two quests. I think those are the prerequisite quests where you're trying to find an NPC and you walk around and stuff. They're kind of annoying anyway. I don't think they really needed to be there, so they're gone. It makes things a little bit quicker to get into the Ivalice story, and the Ivalice story is fantastic, I think. I don't think you need me to really tell you that. At the end of the live letter, then, we're coming towards the end, the final piece of information they slipped in is that Island Sanctuary's release date is for 6.25, so not in 6.2. So this is, a 0.5 patch could be 2 to 4 weeks after the release. Oh, so we got a couple of months to wait, my friends, unfortunately. They slipped that one right in at the end. It is what it is. It sounds awesome. We'll get more information soon, like I say, in the next live letter and accompanying special sites. I'm pretty hyped, honestly. But yeah, 6.25 Island Sanctuary. A little bit longer. Good things come to those who wait, I'm sure. Finally then, just some announcements. They talk about the new Primals Live Blu-ray. Worth mentioning because it comes with orchestrions for the game. with some awesome music to listen to as well, and apparently a narration by Emmett Selk's Japanese voice actor on the Blu-ray. Very cool. And also there's a new TV show to watch related to Final Fantasy XIV, apparently going to be called Looking for Party Members. If it's half as good as Dad of Light, cool, count me in. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the end of Live Letter Part 71, which is obviously a 2-part live letter leading up to 6.2's release. The next live letter is sure to be more exciting than this one, with lots more visual stuff we can talk about and look at, especially in regard to Island Sanctuary, but the details we're given gives us a little bit more of a taste of what to expect. And honestly, just looking at that island with the blurry stuff covering it, I cannot wait to sink my teeth into it. Anyway, much love. Thank you very much for watching this summary. If you've enjoyed this, feel free to give a like. I spent my morning doing this, so you didn't have to. Hopefully it was helpful. Much love. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, or whatever time zone you're in, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.